JB Cycles here with an update on August 25th. So nothing new actually this weekend, so I'll mostly just repeat from last weekend. So the previous week did turn out a little bit more bullish than I have drawn here in my scenarios, but we did get some kind of a dip here around the cycle low, and now we're in an upswing, expecting a top sometime this coming week, midweek or late next week, coming week. We have most likely started a new 10-week cycle, and that means the first 5 weeks we should not expect anything bearish. And the uptrend, should at least go on for 5 weeks and possibly more. So I have these two general scenarios. I'll come back to those. This correction here I'm looking at the 4-week offset. It just looks like a vicious bear trap. So, in this video now, I should mention my experience is that bull markets always, they last longer than you ever could imagine and expect. And back in history, I mostly, I've been, like many others, being stupid and calling for a top before, too early. So I must say, this is a bull market. We're in an uptrend. There are no real warning signs here that we should expect this to end soon, this bull market. So, but there are, well, from cycles I do have some warning signs. So let's have a look into those. Because in the bigger picture we have the 3.5-year cycle. Here we are approaching the cycle top around the end of November. However, normally the bull markets, they go on even after this cycle top. Like over here, the previous bull market, you see, the cycle top is often more like a momentum top, and then the price high is then later in the cycle. If we go back here, you see that was probably the bull market high, and go back here, you see at a much later point than the cycle high. But there are some occurrences, back in 2007, the market pretty much topped out at the cycle high. Also back in year 2000, but we still haven't reached the cycle high. We should really not break down before around November, December. But then I looked into the 28-year cycle and 56-year cycle. You can check out my previous videos on those cycles, and they are warning that we could have an early top. And when I look into history for the S&P, I see the S&P often makes a short A, B, C bull market, and when comparing and measuring with these historical bull markets and measuring from this B low, I get an average projection of a top around just this weekend, or you could say around this weekend plus minus, say, it's a very rough estimate, plus minus several weeks or even a couple of months. So I made another analysis focusing on a correction in the middle of this last C move, and I got this two scenarios in green and red, and the current situation in black. And you see, the green one is topping early and suggests that we, in very few weeks, this should end up like something like a double top, and we should start crashing down. But I'm kind of more favoring this red one, suggesting we will break out to an all-time high the coming weeks, and then mostly be trending up into the election, and then we should start crashing down. But again, it's dangerous to speculate about a bull market top, because the cycle is suggesting this could go on into the winter and even the spring next year. So we have to wait and see for some signs of weakness, Are we starting to see a topping formation? Are we starting to go sideways? Yeah. Also, I had this other cycle of 73.5 weeks. I talked about that one last weekend, and that here I have some analogs. They are suggesting we could top out any time now, the next few weeks, or into October, early November. Suggesting this is possibly two cycles merging into one. So we are at this point like this. So we are possibly in a very bearish left translated cycle that just has begun and will break down very soon. So from the VIX, I'm using some wavelets to identify the 10-week cycle in the VIX, and I get a projection for this current 10-week cycle. And I pretty much have two scenarios, as I showed last weekend. So either, we should top out this coming week around Wednesday, Thursday, then have a dip down, another top, and then we could start an ABC correction. And if we go all the way down to this previous correction low, then it's really a sign of weakness. Or we just continue to trend up, and then maybe just make some kind of a bullish consolidation or a pullback, and then we continue up, just continue up the bull market. So those are two of my main scenarios, and we just had a very strong geomagnetic storm. We have really had a lot of them this year. It was one late March causing the April correction, and I think we had 4 or 5 strong geomagnetic storms, but two of them were really strong, and that was the one in May. That was the strongest in 20 years, and we just had one on August 12th, and that was also a very strong geomagnetic storm, and that triggers this blue scenario, and it could turn out much more bearish than I'm showing here. This other one here, this scenario shows how this really can crash down and cause a 2-month correction, but we have to wait and see. The scenarios suggest we could see a little bit more weakness this coming week, and then a top around the non-farm payrolls, and then it could really open to the downside here. We have the hourly data for the Dow Jones Industrial. So this is really bullish. So strong, too strong, Well, first, as we see, we have the 2-week oscillation here, working very nice. And, here, that dip, that was the signal that we have started a new 2-week oscillation. So, yeah, not perfectly, well, these are rough tools to identify this. I have this general scenario for a rally, and, we kind of took out the upside for 2 upswings in the first upswing. This is a little bit too bullish, and that makes me draw these 2 scenarios here in green and red. If that, after this strong move and no dip, either that should mean we should really rally and break out, or maybe we took all the upside and then we just struggle sideways. So anyway, we should expect a top around Wednesday this coming week. So is it really bullish, or did we take out too much upside in this previous upswing and then we see some stagnation here? That could open for a deep pullback, but still, normally we should never expect any real downside before we have entered this. So still some weeks ahead. That's a repetition pretty much of my previous weekend video. We should not expect any real downside before we get around the non-farm payrolls and closer to the Fed decision, somewhere around here. It's not impossible we could break down earlier, but normally we should not expect any real weakness before this point, and we could even just go on rallying past this point. So we have to see. See ya!